Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Now it's been me all week, just me, my mic and my camera. So we thought we'd give you something a little bit different this weekend. You may or may not have noticed that we've signed a couple of players from Sheffield Wednesday. In fact, they're the only two senior players that we've signed in the last month or so. So why not get a bit of insight into the two signings with Alex Miller, Sheffield Wednesday writer for the Sheffield Star. Alex, thanks for joining us in 67 Hill Hill.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Yeah, looking forward to it. Maybe not so much the subject matter, but yeah, pleasure to be here.
Well, tell you what, give us a little bit of an insight. Obviously, mainly Celtic fans watching this channel. Give us an insight into the current state of Sheffield Wednesday. I mean, they're too big a club to be playing in the third tier English football, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. That's certainly the feeling, and not only from someone who's involved in Wednesday and speaks to a lot of Wednesday fans. I think that's the general feeling across sort of English football down here. Of course, it's not just Wednesday. You know that there's clubs like Sunderland, Ipswich. You know, a lot of clubs have dropped down into that third tier. Look at Leeds United and Hull more recently, and a lot of big clubs. So, yeah, certainly not unique to Wednesday, but it's been difficult. They were relegated on the last day of the season not so long ago. It feels like a long time ago, I must admit. You know, in quite dramatic circumstances from the Championship, and they've been there for 9 years. But you know, some of your viewers that will remember Wednesday as a Premier League club and certainly a First Division club for a lot of years. You know, this is the third time they've been in League One since the last time they were in the Premier League, which is over 20 years now. So, yeah, it's still a big club. It's still got an enormous and loyal fan base. It sells out away grounds, you know, wherever they go, and I think it still does have that reputation as a big club, and rightly so with the stadium and all the rest of it. But yeah, certainly it's been 20 years of hurt, really, and yeah, certainly, you know, they're not in a great place at the minute.
But the good thing about football is you get to go next season and you get that fresh feeling. And listen, you are preaching to the choir because we are Celtic and we had a season to forget last year as well. 25 points, I think, behind Rangers, knocked out every trophy, a nightmare in Europe. So we're both kind of in the same boat with regards to that. Right, the two players we're chatting about, Osaze Urhoghide and Liam Shaw. We'll get on to both of them. First of all, something I wanted to ask you about. Obviously, it seems like a bit of a coincidence that the first two signings are both come from Sheffield Wednesday. People might be asking why that's the case. I know rumours are going around. Well, it's not really rumours that Mike Trusson was the former Celtic European scout. He was assistant manager, I believe, at Wednesday under Tony Pulis. Is that the kind of golden link to this whole thing, do you think?
Could well be. Seems like a bit of a coincidence, doesn't it? Pulis and Trusson were only at the club for, I think, 6 weeks or so. It's certainly only 10 games, and they only won one game, so a bit of a horror spell that was that certainly contributed to the relegation. And yeah, you know, certainly the fact that link is there. Pulis didn't play Urhoghide. Urhoghide barely made the matchday squad in that 10-game run, but he was certainly glowing about Liam Shaw and sort of described him as you know, a big player that could go on and play in the Premier League. So, you know, he obviously liked Liam Shaw. It would be a bit speculative to say that was the direct link, but yeah, it's a bit of a coincidence that's got a few people talking down here in Yorkshire, I can tell you.
Right, what about Urhoghide then? Because he seems like quite an interesting prospect. He's a central defender. I think he can play in a number of roles at the back, in the back line. But the videos you see of him on YouTube are him bombing forward, running 40, 50 yards, you know, a strong runner, very pacey. How much are those clips a fair representation of what he's actually like as a player?
Yeah, he's all action. He's a player that I really liked and really enjoyed watching. He's raw. He's got that pace. He's got that recovery ability, which certainly in the Championship, you know, is a key attribute. And he's sort of got the attributes that you can't teach, which obviously for a young player is very encouraging indeed. There are questions about his decision making at times, his concentration certainly, but those sort of things come with young players. He burst onto the scene at the turn of last year, I think it was, and sort of back-to-back man of the match performances, and then had a tough time. I think he was sent off, you know, early on in a second half, and he was hooked at half time in another game and didn't feature for a little while, and then had a knee injury and managed to get back in and perform very well towards the back end of last season. So he's clearly got something about him. He was released from AFC Wimbledon and made the most of a short trial at Wednesday and did enough to get a 2-year contract. So he's one of the nicest people that I've spoken to in football as well. He's a really genuine young lad that, like I say, he's got everything you want really from a young player, and he is raw. And it is too early to pin you out on him and say he's going to be a world class player or whatever you like. But certainly there's something for Celtic to work with there.
Yeah, I mean the clip of him doing that post match interview, I think it's after his debut away at Brighton, I think in the FA Cup. Celtic fans have come across that. We had a player last season, Jeremy Frimpong, who did a very similar interview after we beat Rangers in the cup final. Definite similarities between them there. In fact, I spoke on the channel yesterday about the fact they were both born in the Netherlands and both got African parents. Both moved to England when they were young, so there's real similarities there. Just tell us then about Urhoghide if you've met him. Is he a guy that the Celtic support are really going to take to as a human?
I think so. I think it was all sort of summed up in that relatively short interview after that Brighton game, and he's got, I don't know whether it's been discovered in Celtic circles yet, but he's got his own YouTube channel.
Yep.
And he's quite open in that. And what you see is what you get. He's a I don't know whether you'd call it naive if you were being cruel, but certainly, he's very green. There's a little pun for you. He's very green. But yeah, so, he's just, like I said, very professional in what he does. And he has come through, even in a very, very short Sheffield Wednesday career, came through moments of real adversity, where it really could have gone either way for him. And he did manage to pull through. And he's obviously got a fantastic move up to Glasgow.
Yeah, he's not replied to my request to do a collab with him on YouTube yet, but maybe that will come in time. Obviously, you won't know a lot about Celtic in terms of the current personnel, but based on what you know about Urhoghide, do you think he's ready to come in and make an immediate impact, or is this going to be a slow burner?
He certainly did it at Wednesday, and having been released, it's a meteoric rise for him, isn't it? To go from released from AFC Wimbledon to a big club in Wednesday, and then to an even bigger club in Celtic. If he makes anything like the sort of impact that he did in the first couple of games that he did with Wednesday, I can see Celtic fans getting quite excited about him. It's the highlights reels, really. It's those moments that really stand out. And with any young player, you can sort of forgive the other ones, whether he gets a chance straight away in the first team, whether he has to work for it. I think he's probably got the mental attributes and all the rest of it, sort of deal with that and come through with it. So I think for the money that supposedly has been paid or will be paid in compensation, it's a bit of a no-brainer really for Celtic.
Yeah, I mean, he was asked in his kind of Celtic TV interview, what are you like? And I think he said, I like a tackle 4 times. He kind of went, I like a tackle. And he kind of thought, what else? And then he went, I like a tackle as well. So we've got that to look forward to. I just wanted to ask you about, before we go on to Shaw, about Sheffield Wednesday and the fact that, you are a big club, Sheffield Wednesday. People know that up here. People know that down south. These guys aren't coming to Celtic from, to mention a team you've already used, AFC Wimbledon or something like that. They're coming from a club that gets, 30,000 every second week, or they did prior to COVID. So, these guys shouldn't really be shocked too much about coming to a club with a big support, with big expectations.
Absolutely. And that's a big conversation down here with Wednesday at the minute, the big rebuilding job. And it's about, getting in players that have that experience of playing with clubs with big expectations. Wednesday certainly has that. As I've already explained, they've been floundering really for too long, but that expectation is still there. People still see Sheffield Wednesday as a Premier League club, and he certainly dealt with that. I keep coming back to it, but, the 2-game period where he was hooked at half-time and then sent off, to then come back months later and look like he'd never been away, it was really, really impressive.
That bodes well then. Tell us about Liam Shaw.
Yeah, another exciting player. A different player in that he's probably more assured. Sort of a couple of appearances. He looked like someone that was playing beyond his years in that sort of way. Can play in a number of positions. Certainly in the under-23s, he played anywhere from centre half all the way up to number 9, really. And he's someone that was very, very highly thought of at at Sheffield Wednesday. A little bit more of a slower burner in some ways. I remember he made his debut down at QPR when Wednesday were locked in a bit of an injury crisis, and a lot of what they spoke about was physical attributes. He's a big lad, he's a big tall lad, big strapping lad. And yeah, so we started off at centre half, moved into midfield, and yeah, certainly, I mean, every manager since his debut has used him in one way or another, and a couple of big performances stand out. I mean, you know, he was Exeter City and it was in the FA Cup, but his performance away at Exeter City was absolutely breathtaking. You know, a couple of real good moments. I'm sure that some of your viewers will have sought out the clip of his run late on in the game. He does have that energy, that burst. And he was captain of the youth teams at Wednesday and all the rest of it. So again, another exciting prospect.
Quite a shy guy, though. Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, I did watch that initial interview, and he's not quite as forthcoming in front of the media, I'd say. He did a couple of media engagements, certainly a post-match one I can remember, and I think he sort of settles into it. Right. But yeah, he's a good, honest Yorkshire lad. So we'll put it that way.
That's what we want. I'll ask you, Ewan from 67 Hill Hill, I'll give him a shout out because he's got a question that he wanted to raise. I think Shaw was sent off twice last season. Is that something that would be a concern, coming up to Scotland, where he's going to have a lot of pressure on him? Every away game we play, every single team we go to, we're the enemy because we're Celtic. Is that something you think he can deal with? Is his temperament an issue at all?
I think he'd be better off because of the experience that he's had. I remember that certainly the second red card, I think, came 2 days after it was confirmed by the Sheffield Star, by the way, that he was moving to Celtic, and so obviously that week had been a big, being a Sheffield Wednesday fan from the city. There were a lot of eyes on him, and that was sort of a moment where people went, oh, right, okay, possibly the two are linked, and maybe he was trying just a little bit too hard. He's another one that likes to tackle. I think because he is sort of tall and gangly, that can get his way. Things can look awkward, if you know what I mean, to referee. But yeah, certainly I'd like to think that he's the better off for those two red cards. But yeah, it remains to be seen. It's difficult with both these players, that the step up, and Wednesday fans, I don't know, might not like me saying this, but the step up from Wednesday under 23s to Wednesday first team, and then it is a whole different ball game. I've got Scottish family, and know a little bit about Scottish football, and that whole Celtic bubble can be a big thing. So yeah, I wouldn't like to pin myself to a mast and say they'll both breeze to it really easily, but for young lads that do, both appear to have a decent temperament on them.
And they're going up together as well. I think Urhoghide was asked about that, and he said, me and Liam are actually quite close. Now, whether they're actually quite close, you'll be able to tell me from the Wednesday days, but it must be a real bonus and a real positive thing for both of them that they're coming up together into this new environment.
Yeah, it'll help them out, won't it? And I think the timing for any young player, coming to a club like Celtic at this time, I know there's maybe a little bit of doom and gloom in some circles, but it can be turned into a positive that maybe the expectations are lowered just a little bit, new manager and all the rest of it. So yeah, certainly it'll be those two against the world, and certainly from my point of view, I wish them all the best, really.
Indeed, right. We face Sheffield Wednesday on Wednesday, funnily enough. That was a kind of script writer's dream, but I'm sure you get that all the time. Yeah. And both sides are training in Wales. Should be an interesting game. Are you going over to Wales?
Yeah, I'll be down there. It's behind closed doors, isn't it? Frustratingly.
Are you getting in?
Yeah, gladly. I think that there's two of us going down. And it's the same day as the England semi-final. Yeah, that almost fell out there. But yeah, so yeah, we'll be hot-tailing it back across the border, hopefully, to watch a Euro semi-final. But yeah, exciting game really. The first one for Wednesday. I'm not sure. Will it be the first for Celtic as well? Or? Yeah. So yeah, good opportunity, and it'll be really interesting if those two play some part. I'm sure they will do.
You're obviously Sheffield Wednesday writer, so I'm going to throw in a cheeky question, and feel free to shoot me down here. Celtic have been linked with George Baldock as well from Sheffield United. Do you know anything about that? It's all right to say no.
No, I don't. We work closely with the Blades desk, but not that closely in terms of bits and bobs. What I do know about George Baldock is that he's one of those players that's flown under the radar, I think, from even what the Blades did last season when there was a lot of attention on them. Baldock really was a big cog in that team. So that would be a decent one, I think. I'll be honest, that's the first time I've heard that, but I can't shine any light on it, I'm afraid.
Yeah, they're talking between 5 and 8 million, which does seem quite a lot for George Baldock. But maybe we're trying to build a Sheffield All-Star 11 for next season. Maybe that's Postecoglou's big plan.
I wouldn't bother from last season.
Exactly. Well, Celtic didn't have a great season either. Let's hope that next season, you guys will be back in the Championship. We'll be best team in Scotland again. We've got high hopes. Alex, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on. People can find you at AlexMiller91 on Twitter as well for all the latest Sheffield Wednesday news. Thanks for coming on, mate.
Cheers, Hamish. Pleasure.